सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। कटाक्षकिरणाचान्त नमन्मोहाब्धये नमः। अनन्तानन्दकृष्णाय जगन्मङ्गलमूर्तये। Page 56, shloka number 17. तथाप्याभाति कोऽप्येष विचाराभावजीवनः। avaśyāyaścidākāśe vicārārkodayāvadhiḥ। So after the 17th shloka, where the Anandamaya kosha or the Sushupti avastha, the complete ignorance state, has been very well analyzed to a point wherein we can say the Panchakosha Viveka is done. From the 8th shloka to the 16th shloka, the Panchakosha Viveka, because in the very beginning he started off from the 2nd through the 7th in an amazing wave, wherein flawlessly he puts across why I cannot be anything but Brahman, why I am the Adhara of everything that which exists. If it is that obvious, I am going through the waves of thought progression. So if I am that flawlessly that Brahman alone, impeccable is the logic, why do I as a sadhaka falter? I falter because of my wrong identification. Wrong identification with what and who? wrong identification with the layer of functionality. The Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, or Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. Different ways of portraying the layers. So the first four seem to be very easily understood. At least at the intellectual level, to comprehend becomes very easy. It is the fifth layer that keeps causing, whether it is through self-unfoldment, whether it is through Viveka Chudamani or any other Prakarana Grantha, it is this fifth layer or the Karana Sharira always stumps us. Why does it stump? Because that is where is the layer of ignorance. We don't even realize the fact that that state is also an experience, and that which is experienced, there has to be an experiencer, and that experiencer is independent of mana and buddhi at that point where we are in sushupti avastha. Because they are withdrawn. There is no question of ego to exist, because the reflecting surface itself is non-existent or withdrawn at that point of time. So the vichara that can be done, the analysis that can be done on that sushupti avastha is very profound. But we seldom look into that, because we eagerly look forward for as much slumber as possible. Whole week I have struggled, whole week I have put a lot of effort, therefore I deserve extra 2 hours of sleep. That is how our Sundays are, mostly, generalizing it. Why? At least in that phase, I don't have to think about any other problems or worries. I can continue to be in that state of complete knocked out, complete state of ignorance. So that we saw in the last shloka. Now then there is another question that comes, is if you claim that this Atma Chaitanya is all pervasive, is the very substratum, is the very essence, that its nature is of illumination, how can that state of illumination be covered by ignorance? If it is covered by ignorance, that means that ignorance must be more powerful or more pervasive than the Atma Chaitanya. Yesterday, no, day before yesterday or before that, I had given an example of a source of light which is covered by something, but at least some light escapes through the crevices. So we come to know that my phone is there. But what if that source of light is covered with thick blanket? Light doesn't penetrate outwardly. That is how it seems when we say ignorance is so powerful that I stay in that state of ignorance, not knowing what my true nature is. Therefore, what I chant as Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate should be questioned. Because I seem like Apurnatva. Because if that which is the Atma Chaitanya can be covered by ignorance, if we say that Atma Chaitanya is infinite, Purna, Purna means what? Infinite. Infinite means that which is not anything other than it is not bigger than it, is not more pervasive than it. How can this ignorance be covering that? There is some flaw in this logic. So that question is taken into discussion. tathāpyābhāti kaha api eshah. Eshah is continuing from the earlier shloka. This is svaprakasham tamatmanam aprakashaha katham sprushet. That which is svaprakasha chaitanya, that Eshaha, this Svaprakasha Chaitanya, tathāpyābhāti, it appears as though covered by ignorance. Now, when we say it is covered by ignorance, we start behaving completely contradictory to the nature of this Atma Chaitanya. And not only that, we are completely contradictingly existing as that Atma Chaitanya, but we revel in it as well. Aham Sukhi, Aham Dukhi. Therefore, in order to find that Sukha, I have to relieve myself of this dukkha, whatever be the dukkha. Once there was one of our brahmacharis. Suddenly he disappeared, we didn't know where. We had heard that he had left, but we had no clarity. One day I had come from Vijayawada to Hyderabad, near the Paradise, Secunderabad area. I was driving in a vehicle. I suddenly saw this person in pant and shirt. I took a second look and it was him, so I stopped suddenly. I took to the side, called him out. What happened? So he very gloriously says, isn't it that our Shastra says, Enas tejasi tatyaja? That with which you have given up everything, give that up. Therefore, I have given up this path itself. That it seems like the effort that it is required to stay on the path becomes so burdensome that to stay in that ignorance with small pleasures and to live in that kind of an environment where I don't have to focus on trying to correct myself, trying to watch myself, just drop in that slumber as far as possible. मुझे उसके बारे में कुछ सोचना ही नहीं है. So there is a little bit of sukha. This is what stops me from that sukha. Therefore, relieve myself of that temporary, and then in that temporariness of that sukha, then we start overindulging as well. Why does this happen? This whole, intellectually we appreciate it, intellectually, logically we get to it. But then this ignorance and the expansion of this ignorance, we revel in it knowing very well all the logic of it. So he says, it happens only because vicārābhāvajīvanaḥ. That jivanaḥ, it is the very life source of that ignorance to continue. When we were young, we used to say, मछली जल की रानी है, हाथ लगाओ वो डर जाएगी, बाहर निकालो मर जाएगी, जीवन उसका पानी है. That is its very life source. Similarly, for this ignorance, what is its life source? I don't know where that poem came from suddenly. I saw Jeevan and that reflected. So, what is the Jeevan of this ignorance? How does it thrive? He says, vicārābhāva, because we do not inquire in the right way. Our conclusions are very muddled conclusions with respect to our experiences. We claim ourselves to be very scientific, but then our approach to our own life, see, what happens to us is not in our control. But how we act, react, respond to it, and how we filter it or allow it to impact us, that is in our hands. Good, bad, ugly, horrifying, whatever it be. And for that to happen, there has to be some filtering called vichara that has to happen. But instead of vichara, we either are brooding about or give up and just succumb to it. Because too much of effort. There are people, men and women, that say, I don't want to think about it. If I cry once, if I pour my heart out once, I am good. Yes, that will empty out. But then it is only a patchwork being done. To a friend that you feel that it is non-judgmental, in that environment you go pour your heart out. It's a patchwork done. You have released yourself from that pressure. But then we continue in the same realm again and again and again. And we do not put the effort of vichara. More difficult than putting effort in the world is to be able to subtly observe and think through with proper logic and proper understanding. But instead of that proper logic and understanding, we brood and brood and brood over the unnecessaries. Worrying is not called vichara. Worrying is called vicāra. Now, what do I mean by worrying is vicāra? When something happens, we get stuck with, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And we try finding answers, we try discussing with people. That questioning itself, that mode of questioning itself is of a wrong nature. Yes, you have taken note of everything. Anybody who tries to explain why, it does not feel justifiable to us, to our understanding. Something serious has happened, something serious. Even when you go into the medical field, the probable causes which may be seen, but sometimes even they get stumped. But instead of wasting time in trying to see why, they say, how? Now this is the situation. How can I try fixing it? But instead of trying to look for solutions, we keep dwelling in more and more into the problem itself and repeating the problem as though we are in love with that problem. This is called self-whipping. We keep whipping ourselves again and again and again, and some sympathy, some empathy, some compassion somewhere, feel comforted with that and continue whipping and continue crying over it rather than looking into solution. Instead of why this has happened. Drop the why. This has happened. How do I make sure that I get out of it? So there is a funny incident what he was describing. There was somebody that was drowning, and there was an ocean, and there was a boat passing by, and the fellow suddenly jumps, everybody applauds, and he somehow pulls that fellow drowning up, and after he comes up, when everybody is appreciating, he says, stop all this, first tell me who pushed me in. Instead of looking into what can be the solutions, we get caught up in the very drowning aspect of it, that we don't even want to be the solution for it. If somebody even pushes us towards the solution, we get agitated. That is how much we are entrenched in that path of ignorance, that we don't want to do the vichara at all. Whenever we face with some problem, some crisis, something, any happening that happens, it need not be a grave kind of a situation. We don't want to look at the correct vichara with the correct questioning to the correct direction. As the mad fellow was asked the wrong question. Where is the boat is not the question. Where is the water? Na rahegi baas, na bajegi basuri. But instead of looking at the right questioning mode, we ask the wrong questions and we assume that we are doing vichara. So there is one stage where there is complete vichara abhava. Then there is complete vichara which is in the wrong direction. Then there is a vikara of worrying. So he says all of these stages are abhava of vichara only. And that is what feeds jivanaha, feeds this andhakara to continue. If you see a snake on the rope, you need somebody to help you to throw some light on it to get a clarity that it is rope. But if you gather a crowd which also is panicking and it also is, that doesn't help. Similarly, when we sit together, many times it happens even in the study groups. Instead of focusing on the content and the vichara, it is the self-absorbing stories that we start narrating, which we think which is linking to that particular, because there is an example or some kind of an outline given, and that is being beaten up rather than doing the vichara of what is being pointed at. And there is a self-gratification that yes, I have done some vichara. But that is vikara, because it is not yielding the solutions of a permanent nature. I go back to the same square one. Therefore, even in Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, Ataha vichara kartavya. How to do the vichara is also very, very important. Go to the very bottom of every possible situation as to where forth is this rooting from. Try to find that root cause. Yes, somebody said something, somebody did not say something, somebody did something, did not say something. There is some kind of neglect or a feel of left out or feel of anger, frustration or disrespect. All of these which we go through. Whatever be the reaction, where is it stemming forth from? And we don't have patience. We want a quick fix. We want a quick solution. Right then and there, some shortcut, some, band-aid, patch it up and move on. There are so many band-aids over the period of time of our life that we have become experts at patchwork. No wonder our roads never get fixed. Because instead of cleaning up all that mess and creating a firm foundation, they clean that pothole, dust it off, pour some tar, fill it up, run the pressure on it. One rain. See, the ashram that I am living in, the Chinmay Sitaram ashram, outskirts of Vijayawada. The road to it, for last 30 years, I have had the experience only for 30 years. So for the last 30 years, actually it should take about 30-35 minutes max. But then it takes up about 1 to 1.5 hours, not because of traffic. It is because of the potholes. Potholes as big as the bus. Every government comes, one layer, and for next 5 years nobody wants to touch it. So whenever I have to drive through there, this is my vichara. Our life is also just like this. That instead of looking at what is causing it, a firm, permanent measure to take shape wherein all these kinds of nonsensical things can be put to rest once and for all. But instead, chalta hai attitude. Chal se. He parvale. Kannada, adjust ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. In life also we keep adjusting and then hope for some miraculous thing to happen suddenly. Because we have read Paramahamsa Yogananda, we have read Vivekanandaji, that just by touch of somebody, suddenly there is some kind of a change. So why do I have to put some change, somebody, I'll pray. I'll go to temple, I'll go everywhere else, I'll go yatra. But not put the effort of vichara. Without vichara, we put on the face of bechara and go all around. Kya karun, zindagi aisi hai. And then we popularize it or glamorize it by, maili chadar od ke aun kaise tere dwar. Arre dhoke aana. रोका कौन है? चादर मैली है तो धो के आओ. somebody raised an objection when I put forth this particular point about that bhajan. I said, Swamiji, they are talking about the sharira. ठीक है भाई, शरीर ही सही, क्यों धोने को किसने रोका है? How can I come with this kind of malinya? Correct? I had this young kid, his mother was insisting that he washes his hand. He had a very beautiful logic. He said, Mom, food should give us enough vitamins and minerals. So that which you have cooked only gives vitamins. My hand unwashed brings minerals. You know, there is that age wherein they have learnt few things. You know, salt is NaCl, water is H2O, and the earth has minerals. So he comes and applies that Siddhanta, as though it is a Siddhanta. So we wash. We wash before, we wash after. Anyway, I have to wash after, right? Why wash now? A similar classic example is when you ask the children to make their bed. It is me who has to come and disturb the bed before I sleep. So why again make it only to break it? And it is clean and neat all the time when I am not using it. For who should I clean it? Have you come across such logic? And they think it is a very good vichara. We apply the same Siddhanta to life also. Never take time to patiently sit through and patch everything up properly. We don't sit to do the vichara. Saying there's so much of effort to sit and do that vichara. See, when you get a knife from the market, for first few months or first year or so, it functions flawlessly, sharply, beautiful. After a while, even if you stand on it and do takita tadmi, it will not cut anything. The sharp side up under your feet. It will become blunt. So you have to take time to sit down and sharpen it. And the only way to sharpen, he says, to get out of this ignorance is vicāraha kartavya. Not doing the vichara is its life source. It is fed by that avichara bhava. We analyze and we analyze only superficially. We don't go to the root cause of it. Therefore, through and through the entire Panchakosha Viveka, one sentence I constantly reiterated again and again and again, which I am connecting back here, is it is very important for us to see throughout the day of our interactions, what platform am I standing on to act, react, respond to the world of experiences. Am I acting, reacting, responding from the standpoint of being this limited body, mind and intellect, or the layer of vasanas, likes and dislikes, or from that awareful, conscious principle at every moment of our life? Initially it will look burdensome. Just like how you learned the cycle to find a balance, initially it is difficult. Once you get to that balance, it is impossible for you to lose that balance. Even if you have not attempted at it for years, a cycle is given and that is the only mode. You feel ridiculous standing on it or riding it. The balance is never lost. Similarly, initially to be conscious of everything, to be accountable for everything, that there is no scope. That is the tapas that one has to do. Which platform am I functioning from? Am I acting? Am I reacting? Am I responding? Or am I being callous to be not even processing it? So vichara is the only way. That was one more reason why I said in this particular class it is not like Jnana Yajna, a time oriented wherein the text has to be finished. When will this text be finished? I don't know. I'm very clear about it. अबे इतने साल हमने इतने टेक्स्ट पढ़े हैं, कुछ हुआ तो इधर जल्दी का है किया. Whatever study has to be done, it has to be done. That stimulant has to be there, wherein that right vichara has to be established so that it cannot be shaken, however difficult be the outside field of experience. That it does not shake from within. That established viveka should be so strong. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita it says, Gurunapi vichalayet, na vichalayet. However be it may be tsunamical kind of experience, strongly rooted. Like the other day when the torrential rains in the Himalayas, it had wiped out his entire house, a joint family, combined family that they were living in, ancient house, including the land in which they were. The rivers can change the course. So it changed the course, entire village got wiped out, just outskirts of Uttarkashi. Seeing the kind of flow, knowing what that flow can do, what kind of damage it can happen, as soon as it changed the course, this person with about 20 plus family members brought them all out in the middle of the night to safety, to a non-landsliding higher ground, and saved the entire family. Instead of being compassionate and non-disturbing to that person, all these TV anchors reached out to him. What insensitive questions. Insensible questions. आपको कैसा लगता है? मुझे नाचने का मन करता है. What kind of question is that? नहीं, सब कुछ ढह गया, आपको कैसा लगता है? दुख तो लगता है. That is what he said. दुख तो लगता है. 6-7 पीढ़ियों से, मतलब 6-7 generations have lived in that house. तो आप क्या करेंगे? He said, the land itself is gone. What you talk of a house? That where that village was is now completely underwater. It was a high ground actually, but the sudden flash flood of the cloud burst, it just burst open and that entire thing got washed out. There is one Shiva temple there, which only the shrine top shikhara is only seen. It's a tall one. It is supposed to have been built by Pandavas. The local folklore is, from Hastinapura they dug a cave and they emerged from here. You know the Lakshagriha, where there was an attempt for them to be burnt. They dug the tunnel, Bhima dug the tunnel and they came out from outskirts of Uttarkashi. Baap re, idhar se udhar tak. That particular Shivalaya under which that tunnel is supposed to be, it's completely covered. What do you talk of the rest of the houses? But his standpoint was so clear. That is called vichara. He said, doesn't matter. I still am there. We still are there. We have built it, we can rebuild it. May not be that elaborate, may not be that luxurious, but I am still there, I can still rebuild it. However, problematic or things may be, vichara is the support. But we refuse to do that vichara. And that is what constantly feeds the continuance of this ignorance and staying in that ignorance. So the example taken here is, avaśyāyaḥ meaning thick fog. In some places it is so polluted that there is so much of smoke and fog put together, they now call it smog. Half smoke, half fog, so smog. Delhi, LA, Britain, London, there is smog. In winter season we will have it here also. So foggy that you cannot see from 2 meters away from you. Driving becomes so difficult. Cannot see the light, the street lamps are there, but the street lamps also look like a small lamp which doesn't throw much light. But something strange happens. In that space where the fog has taken over, the visibility is nil. Sometimes it is so thickly fogged that the airplanes cancel. They refuse to fly, they refuse to land. Up it is clear, down it is not very clear. So they keep hovering around. You go to Dehradun airport or Siddhabari ke paas ho gaya. The airport. Gaggal airport, Kangra. Early morning flights is like, we don't know. It is completely fogged out. The moment sun rises, all of that fog, that mist, it disappears just like that. Vicārārkaha. Vichara is that kind of sun which clears out the space of ignorance, fogging us out from looking at the reality. If we are caught up where we are caught up, as we are caught up already, it only says that we are not doing vichara properly. Yes, we need the strength of puja, japa, dhyana, all of that to build the strength of that antakarana to not give up, not give in. But once that strength is established, then vichara is the only support. The moment I start that vichara, there is no possibility of that to touch. There can be a pain, dukkha, but for it to become a trauma, I have to indulge in it. And the life itself becomes like a traumatic experience because without vichara, I am just diving one after the other and say, I am very busy, I don't want to do vichara right now. All this Vedanta, all these concepts are for later period. Abhi mujhe kaam karne do. You are going in the dark without a headlight. Fix it first. Just like the yellow bright sun's light removes the fog on the vehicles also, they have that yellow light. The moment you switch it on, you can penetrate through that fog. But that vichara has to be well established. Well established to what point? What is the platform am I functioning through? How am I? What am I functioning as? In spite of listening to Gurudev, Guruji, Swarupananji, all the great Mahatmas that have come within the fold, outside the fold, still yet if we function as I, this individuality. Funny thing, earlier our vocabulary was different. We would call out the fate or the non-alignments of stars. Now our vocabulary has been Vedanticized. What to do, Swamiji? My prarabdha. What is the next word after that? Where is the Purushartha? We cannot just damn ourselves to exist as fatalistic individuals. That fate has done this. I am waiting for fate to undo it. Where is your Purushartha? I mean, this principle, if it is understood, whether it is the nationalistic pride, whether it is the identity of a Hindu as Hindutva, whatever it be, yes, fate had brought in all the oppressors. They were barbaric. You realize it? Done with it. Now what are you doing about it? From what standpoint do you function in it? The abundance from which you can function from within. There is no other magical potion or magical touch you require. You already are that. But I have to put the effort to raise myself to be in that platform and establish in there that I am not shaken up because of some small little things that happen. That I tumble down all the way from there. That is what Vishwamitraji's life teaches us. 4 times he tumbled. Each time he thought he was applying a solution to stay above. But the moment, so the first time he got entrapped, it took him 13 years. And then he walked out. Then that whole month that he spent in establishing Trishanku. Then within that moment he realized, within a month, Rambha comes, he curses her and then he says, oh God. Immediately, as soon as that act is done, then he makes a standpoint. He says, allow the mind to function without this clarity of wisdom of vichara, you are entrapped. So stay far away from this reactionary mind pattern. The world will be as is. How that world responds to you, reacts to you, you don't have a hand on it. You don't have a control on it. How you take it, how you allow it impact you. Unimpacted, then be a solution for it. You see what kind of freedom you regulate yourself from. That would be the true compassionate standpoint from which you can act. Now also I am trying to say act, because that is where we are embedded in. Just like the mist flies away in the presence of the sun, similarly in the bright glow of this vichara, when rightly performed, there cannot be that ignorance and its grip on our lives. You have cut the feeder the moment you start doing the vichara. Therefore, Shabda Pramana is such profound method to get out of this samsara. Why are we so hankering about the children learning Bhagavad Gita, memorizing it, Bhagavad Gita competitions and all of this? Right at that age, if they are already enabled in learning it, memorizing it, knowing it, by the time they come of the age, they start understanding the meaning, they can start working in rebuilding their vichara, because they do not have to take support of anything else. It is already uploaded. It is only the execution that is left. And that which comes from that swanubhuti of my true nature, unparalleled, no mind, no intellect can compete with it. Therefore, the solution that this shloka is trying to impress upon us, every single minute thought, word or deed, what platform am I functioning from? Is it the body, mind and intellect? Is it the ego reacting? What is the root cause? Invariably, the root cause is this ignorance, and I am feeding that ignorance constantly, thinking that that is where my security is. It takes a lot of courage to get out of that insecurity. And the only help that we have is vichara. Therefore, the entire Gayatri mantra, what does it focus on? The last line, Dhiyo yonah prachodayat. May that intellect be illumined. Illumined by what? That conscious principle. And for that conscious principle to illumine this intellect, it should function as vichara. Every act, every thought, every word to be done in that conscious spirit, once you look at it from that perspective, you cannot unlook it, you cannot undo it. Don't react from the standpoint of being a body, mind and intellect. We are very reactionary by nature because our identity is so clogged. That unclogging can happen only through vichara. Wherever, whatever you are studying, whatever you are listening, whatever you are consuming, is from the standpoint, how can it help my vichara? Whether you are reading a science magazine, whether you are reading a newspaper, whether you are going through a satsang, anything else, filter it out. It is a data point which does not have to impact my internal processing. I am not saying you ignore it. Take a note, but that is not for processing the vichara. Put it aside. Whether you bathe, whether you eat, whether you walk, whether you exercise, whether you function in different kinds of work, All of this is to enable from the standpoint that I am working from the standpoint of the highest. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the emphasis that is given, from tamasic grow to rajasic, rajasic to sattvic, from sattvic, now put the effort to transcend beyond it. Meaning, where am I functioning from to the outside world? That is my test. And world will give us, our prarabdha will give us all kinds of experiences to test it out. Don't run away. Face it. Face it from that vichara standpoint. Let that illumine. From that illumination of that intellect, that processing, that vichara, which has to be sharp, meticulous, that it does not have loopholes in it, it does not have bugs in it. That is the only way to get out of this andhakara of ignorance. tathāpyābhāti kaha api eshaha vicārābhāvajīvanaḥ. I am where I am in this state because of absence of vichara. And the only thing that can help is to stand above it. Therefore, even Ramana Maharshi ji at the very end of Upadesha Sara, what he calls as the greatest tapas, Mahadidam tapaha Ramana Vagiyam. Not because his name was Ramana Maharshi. He says, that who is reveling. From that standpoint, this statement is being made, that this is the greatest tapas. What is the greatest tapas? Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam mahadidam tapo ramanavagiyam. Am I functioning from the standpoint of ego, or am I functioning from that standpoint of clarity of vichara? Detached from that. Let's continue next, tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.